My father used to work as a commercial director in an advertising agency when I was growing up. So I think I was 11 years old. I would come to the office on Saturdays, and my dad would take me up into the studio. Well, he would be busy and I'd go to the studio. And all these fellows are painting and, making posters and all that. So I would be fascinated. That's when I decided that's what I want to do. When I was about 11 years old. I finished my A levels, physics, chemistry, biology. I was supposed to go and do medicine to the US. So, but I wanted to do advertising. But my father, in those days, fathers, doctors, accountants, lawyers. That's it. And so there was a gap between the time I finished my exams and by the time I had to go, 5-6 months. So I told my dad, why don't you let me work in one of the advertising agencies? By this time, he wasn't working for the firm at the time, but he obviously still had the relationship. So he spoke to them. I went there, and they thought they'll just hire me as a flunky. My first job was making photocopies, errand boy, so to speak. And so long story short, this is really where it all started. So a few months later, I got the head of the agency to write to my dad saying, I think your son will do better in advertising.
Than being a doctor.
Rather than being a doctor, right. So that was really how it all got started. And then I worked for there, and then two other agencies for about 10 years. And then I set up my own in 1982. Purely because I felt that I had been, where I was working, I should have been the next head of the company, but they didn't. They put somebody else, and then I felt, well, hang on, I'll never get an opportunity, to scale up. And so I'd rather go and do it on my own. So I set up Scanner in 1982. I think it's the same world over, like what we call the traditional era of advertising: TV, radio, print, and outdoor. These are the main medium, right? And I think it was all about, you launched a campaign because media wasn't expensive. You did a blitz on all the media channels. It was across, and I think at the time the kind of advertising that people were doing was more aspirational, emotional. You remember the good old days of detergent advertising when you had, two children from neighboring homes, one having a shirt that's brighter than the other one. And the housewife, the mother there was more proud because she used a detergent that made his son the shirt more whiter and brighter. That type of advertising was really working in those days because consumers were finding new categories of product, they were realizing the benefits of this product, and therefore emotional hooks worked better, even for categories where today people don't really care what detergent you use to wash your clothes. But in those days that was important. So I think the advertising had to be a lot more emotionally hooked rather than relevant or rational. I think one of the best campaigns that I still always remember is the one we did for Fiat Uno. These two cars standing next to each other, and these fellows, two guys finished playing tennis, and they come to the car, and the guy says, oh, the first guy goes to the wrong car. The guy said, no, that's my car. No, that can't be your car, and then that's the Uno. I brought it, da-da-da. And then he explains all the attributes of the car while they're sitting and arguing about it. And it was done in a very comical way. So that particular ad was very, very successful. I think today we are absolutely where the global market is, certainly in Kenya, okay? And I think you've read about it, people talk about it all the time, how technology is reshaping our industry. How we need to be able to communicate to consumers in real time and on scale, right? So we need to use technology. Consumers today are not going to get excited to buy your product if you don't have a relationship with them. So you need to have that engagement with the consumers. The consumers need to engage with your brand. And it's not about just creating awareness, it's more about creating top-of-mind awareness, which leads to consideration. So your product will not be bought if you're not top of mind of the consumer. And the only way you can be top of mind is if you are constantly engaging with the brand. And the way we can do that is use technology, because today penetration of mobile phone is very, very big. Therefore, how can we use technology to make the engagement more relevant, the engagement more long-lasting, and therefore you become on top of mind, and therefore you are there for consideration when the consumer wants to buy a product. Yeah, digital, like everywhere else. Like I said, there's no difference. Today, 2 weeks ago, I was in London. We were sitting with all the managers from all the different countries around the world, and the stories were the same. In fact, I thought some of the stuff that I talked about, we were ahead in terms of e-commerce, what we're doing in terms of e-commerce. We've just launched an app called Gobi, Goby. And Gobi is an app that enables SMEs to market and sell their products online. Within half an hour, you can create your own website, you can market your product, you can track who's buying it, who's not buying it, you can buy advertising, and then the plan for us is to make this as an online mall. So we're going to have an online Gobi mall, and anyone who subscribes to the app is actually like paying rent in a shopping mall. And then we'll market the mall called the Gobi Mall. It's a virtual marketplace, absolutely. And so it's about finding and looking for opportunities where you can help and create revenue streams for us, which are longer lasting than what we are currently on, which are fees from clients, and how technology can be used to help the SMEs market their product online. WPP is our largest shareholder. They own 56% of the company, and we manage all their brands across sub-Saharan Africa. Ogilvy, Wunderman Thompson, Kantar, Hill & Knowlton, Group M, so all the Group M brands, they're all with us. The way it happened was slightly different because we had a joint venture with WPP in a research company, which is Milward Brown. And I think it was like they found it interesting to take a stake in, because by this time Scangroup had already listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, which was probably good for them because there was already a holding company structure. We were already operating in multiple countries. And so what happened at the time was they did not take, nobody sold shares at the time. We issued new shares. So the capital, the entire capital came into the company, right, in exchange for them giving us more of their brands. So it was for WPP, it was an investment in Scangroup. And for us, it was joining hands with a multinational, therefore get access to more clients, more brands, more knowledge, technology, everything else, right? So it worked for them, it worked for us. For Scangroup, when I set up Scangroup, we didn't have any global, international advertising partner. We had affiliation relationships. We used to work with IPG, we used to work with TBWA, we also used to work with WPP as we had an affiliation with JWT, but none of them had any stake in the business. And I think when a company has a stake in the business, I think they are more serious about it. They're more serious about growing. And I think for WPP, whilst Africa relatively today in relation to their global earnings is relatively small, I think in terms of strategic importance, Africa is very important for them because all their WPP clients are actively involved on the continent right now. We were meant to be the WPP investment vehicle for sub-Saharan Africa. So we had all the brands except Kantar. And also Kantar, we had the Milward Brown business, but we did not have the TNS business. So it made more logical sense for WPP to either take Milward Brown and take it away from us or give us TNS. Now, because we had a pretty good infrastructure on the continent, it made more sense for them to bring it in. So the intent at that time was to bring it in. There was no intent for WPP to sell Kantar at the time they did the transaction. Subsequently, they decided to sell Kantar globally, and therefore we now have to comply with the global decision. And it makes sense because there's no point us holding on to Kantar here when they've sold the Kantar everywhere else to somebody else, right? But that doesn't stop us working with Kantar. Remember that, right? Kantar is still a partner with us on many of our clients. We work very closely with them. They provide the research. We do all the work from the front end. And so that won't stop. Nothing is going to stop in terms of the way we work with Kantar, apart from the ownership. Acquisition is one of the ways to grow the business. It's not the only way. Sometimes you don't find target companies that are appealing. Sometimes you don't find companies that are actually going to help you grow right? You may want to get into a certain area on your own, which is what we've done in many of the things that we've done. Initially, if you recall, when we set up Squad, which is our digital entity, right? We had a joint venture with a company in India. We parted the joint venture, then we did our own investment in terms of developing. We talked about Gobi. This is another product which we also developed called Optimus, which is a marketing automation platform that we sell to banks, right? And so these are investments we made ourselves because we didn't find anybody out there who had the knowledge that we could pick up and acquire. And at the moment, we are always looking out for good targets to acquire. But at the moment, we don't feel that there's anything out there, certainly in sub-Saharan Africa, that we can actually acquire that will help us. We call ourselves a marketing company, right? And therefore, whatever we do that helps market our clients' products does two things. Helps us build the relationships, make the relationship much stronger with our clients. And more important, let's look at what the clients want today, okay? Clients want ROI. For every dollar they spend, they want to make sure they get return for their investment. What you now find is that traditional media advertising, and as I said earlier on, is very passive. Therefore, you need to create much more stronger engagement with consumers today. Therefore, you use technology to make their engagement real time and stronger and in scale, right? So you end up creating platforms or products like Optimus, like Gobi, that actually help us do that, right? Optimus is that. Optimus is a platform. It's like a lead management system. But more important, it also connects to online advertising. So whatever, when you run an ad online, when you send in seeking more interest, immediately the Optimus platform will pick it up and will follow up that lead right to the conclusion. And not only that, it will also cross-sell and upsell later on. And then in the process, we pick up a lot of data, right? Not privacy data, just information that we can profile what this customer is like, what else can we sell this customer? We've sold him a house loan, can we sell him a car loan, can we sell him a credit card? Is he fulfilling, is he keeping his account with the bank liquid? You know what I mean? So it creates a real-time engagement for the bank with the customer, which at the moment they can't do it. It's not automated. They have to have customer service people calling. This platform enables that to happen online in real time. I think the reasons were several reasons, but I think the key reasons were I owned 80% of the company. I had a partner who was my creative partner, owned 20% of the company, and we were growing quite rapidly. The challenge we had at that time was, and I'm glad that we did it at that time, because clients were always skeptical of putting all eggs in one basket. So if we were to do, and if the clients were to give us media, PR, digital, creative, everything, then obviously there's a level of apprehension that this is a privately owned company owned by one individual. What is going to happen? Succession? What about compliance? Especially when you are buying media, compliance is a very key thing, right? So having broader ownership, having scrutiny, having your company being scrutinized, right, was the right thing to do, because then what you're doing is you're sending a very positive message to your customers and your clients that you're a very stable organization, you have a lot of corporate governance structures in place, and I think that has helped us a lot, right? So today, in a world that is, compliance is a very big thing now, right? So we don't have to sit and worry while some of our competitors who are privately owned have to sit and worry about that, because they still do not tick all the boxes in the compliance matrix while we do. I think if I hadn't listed the company, I probably would have retired earlier on or sold the company or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you don't have that responsibility to grow. But I think what has happened is having listed the company has given me the impetus, because then the whole continent is open for me. You have a big company like WPP supporting me, right? With all their brands, all the new learnings they picked up, and their clients. So certainly for me, it was the right thing to do. And I have no regrets whatsoever. I think what's happened, it's not only in 2019, the last 3-4 years, right? There has been a reduction on what we call above the line media, okay? And that is purely because, it's not because clients have reduced spending money, okay? Yes, there have been instances when some clients, their priorities have changed. Some of the multinationals are re-looking at their investment on the continent. But more important is, clients looking for better ROI. And they feel that investing on traditional media continually is not giving them the return. Therefore, it's like, put it differently, when you advertise on national television, you create awareness. But awareness does not mean consideration, right? For that, you need a lot more to get into the consideration fact. And that's the reason why you put money on other areas, activations, technology, etc., right, to do that. So I think overall, the clients are not spending less on marketing. What is happening is the priorities are changing. And as I said earlier, our business is going through a change, right? And that's the reason why the technology offering, so that we can foolproof the messaging to the consumers of our clients, right? By using technology and by using other means, so that there is the ROI benefit that they can get, which is what they're looking for. You know, it's a very passionate business, right? So what tends to happen is you create some very strong bonds with clients that you work with. And when you end up losing some of those clients, which invariably happens, right? Whenever there are new pitches, you feel very sad that you lose a particular client. And so I think that used to be the lowest point, right? Although even now sometimes it still becomes the lowest point. But I think you kind of get over it quite quickly, because you realize that if the client is not happy where they are, they will come back. And many of our clients that we lost came back. So they always kind of reassures you that, and then also it kind of puts you on your toes that make sure that they don't leave in the first place. The way you build a business is based on the people that you have around you, right? And I think I probably have been right 60% of the time of having the right people around me. And you probably have made 40% mistakes. So I think probably next time I'll be a lot more careful of the team that I have around me that can help me go to the next level. I spend a lot of time at home with my wife and my grown-up children. Now I'm a grandfather as well, so 2 grandkids. So I think that helps me unwind a lot. Apart from that, play golf once a week when I can, and read, and that's about it. So there's nothing unusual that anybody else would not do to unwind. We get exposed quite a lot, what's happening all the time. And more important today, there's a lot of knowledge available online to read, and you have to keep yourself very, very abreast in terms of what's going on. And it's exciting, actually. I look at it differently. I say it's exciting times. There's so much happening right now, and you see how it's happening elsewhere, and all you need to do is to try and replicate that. Learning. It's been one great learning.